Welcome to Your Speaking Matters, hosted by Rik and his lovely wife, Carol Durling. In every episode of this podcast, we work at unraveling the secrets of effective communication, which are great social skills for everyone. We do that through engaging conversations, providing techniques and tips, and exploring the Toastmasters program. In this episode, Carol and I are going to share some of the skills we've learned as we've been part of the Confident Communicators Club and much less Toastmasters. For instance, both of us have improved our speech delivery and learned techniques so we avoid being caught in the headlights when we're in a social situation and we're asked to address a question somebody in the group is asking. This happens in social situations. It also happens in real life. So it's a real life skill that we have developed and are able to continue to enhance. I'm going to kick off today's session by turning to Carol and asking her, what are a couple of skills or a specific skill that you feel you've benefited from as a result and developed as a result of being a part of the Confident Communicators Club?
In addition to what you just said about gaining competency speaking, I have learned to overcome my fear of speaking to strangers. I'm pretty shy, as you are, when it comes to speaking to people I don't know. But through our club, I had an opportunity to speak to several Chamber of Commerce groups, talking about hints and tips of off-the-cuff speaking. I also talked to the Rotary Club about fish. Yes, fish. From
Sounds
our
like
scuba,
a fishy story to
fishy
me.
story from our scuba diving trips. They wanted to hear. Many groups are looking for speakers through Toastmasters, speaking in the club, but speaking to these outside groups. Even a contest has helped me overcome. Now it's easy. It's no big deal to go into a group and speak because I've done it before and I haven't died. Actually,
You stole my line.
I did. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still here and enjoyed it very much.
So I just have one clarifying question. You gave a speech about fish. Were you wearing a scuba regulator at the time, and how did that work out for you?
No, I know when I'm out of the water, I don't need the regulator in my mouth. But I have to acknowledge that all the fish photographs are ones you took on our trips
Throwing
in the
it back
Caribbean.
at me.
Yes, I'm throwing it back at you.
Well, I definitely relate to the shyness angle, and there is no question that I have been my entire life a fairly shy person. You could even describe me as a wallflower in many situations. It wouldn't be unusual to find me prior to Toastmasters sitting on a couch at a party and waiting for people to come and talk to me. That's a classic wallflower kind of situation. Toastmasters has helped me overcome that shyness, at least in part because you get up in front of an audience and you start feeling the energy coming back from them. And as you point out, I discovered I wasn't going to die if I talked in front of people. It's been a very useful experience for being able to help me overcome that shyness. In addition, I think you may have the same experience. While I, prior to Toastmasters, did have to get up in front of large groups of people when I was working and give presentations, my confidence level has increased dramatically because of the techniques and the skills and the practice of getting up in front of strangers. So I have developed a lot more confidence in my speaking. Have you found the same thing?
Absolutely. When you think about it, I think the biggest thing I read that I've incorporated is every time you get up in front of audience, you're there for them. They've either asked you to speak or they're very interested in what you have to say. If you're doing it for them, then it takes the spotlight off of you. The spotlight's on them. And you're serving as a speaker.
Absolutely, from my perspective, that's part of what I found. And there's another aspect of it that the constant repetition, practice, if you will, has helped me to realize is that while I still have sweaty palms sometimes, or I'm nervous about giving a presentation or having to speak in front of a group of people, again, it's just the fact that I now know I'm not going to die. And as you say, that the audience is actually there to hear what I have to say. And the fact that I have developed more confidence has helped me overcome those nerves. So part of the whole beauty of this is that I have overcome nerves that otherwise would have sidelined me in terms of speaking. Go ahead.
What's something you have picked up out of Toastmasters?
Well, I was just going to comment on one of the secret skills that may not seem to be really relevant to speaking, but is the act of listening, actually listening. I ask myself this on a routine basis. When I am listening to someone giving a speech, I ask myself quietly, my inner voice will be sitting there, and I'll ask, am I listening or am I judging what they're saying? If you're having a running dialogue in your head about everything the speaker says, it's questionable if you're really actually listening to the speaker. That skill of listening, to me, is one of the secrets of effective communication. If when you're talking with somebody, you're rebutting everything they said or agreeing with them or whatever your position is, instead of quietly listening, you're really not hearing what the person is saying. So that listening without running that inner dialogue is something I find very valuable. I don't know if you had a similar experience?
Absolutely. In every role I've taken in Toastmasters, it's listen, like when you evaluate someone's speech, you really have to pay attention if you're going to give them valid feedback. As well as if you're a grammarian, you need to listen for good uses of the language or improper uses. Listening is a phenomenal skill to have if you are a leader, because in order to be a team leader or a manager, you definitely have to pay attention and listen to people, especially when you're trying to resolve conflicts. Because oftentimes people aren't as far apart as they may seem. Being a good listener is definitely a skill that will serve you far.
I definitely have learned a lot about listening because I started studying how listening works. And one of the characteristics that I found that's very, very fascinating is human beings don't do real well both sending and receiving at the same time. So, for instance, if you are talking back to the person, even if it's an inner dialogue, you're probably not really receiving well because the two just don't work. We seem to be geared towards a mono channel. It's either sending or receiving. So if you can calm that inner mind, that really makes a big difference. And that's supported by an awful lot of studies that I've had the opportunity to review and take a look at. And I love your point. When we're evaluating somebody, or just listening to see if somebody is using things like and, so, but, all those filler words that we constantly try to remove from our speeches, if you've got an inner dialogue, it's kind of hard to pick up on some of that stuff. It's very hard to really evaluate how the person is delivering their speech. If you pay attention only to the content and are constantly pushing back, those are the kinds of things that listening overcomes, really listening with a quiet mind. It's a skill, and practice helps, And I am by no ways the best at it, but it is something I am constantly trying to improve. So Carol, we've talked about overcoming shyness, and we've talked about listening. What other things do you feel you've picked up from Toastmasters?
Given that I joined Toastmasters to become a better speaker, I've been totally amazed at the other things that I find in Toastmasters, and one of them is teamwork. You don't hear the slogan very often. Toastmasters is where you come and learn how to team or drive teams. But teaming it is. We team for everything. Every time we put on an open house, every time we put on a contest, we work together, even organizing club meetings. First of all, it's a good group of highly motivated people who want to invest in themselves and improve themselves. That alone makes it a great team. But I find that people are willing to jump in and support every one of our efforts. That the currency for a good team in Toastmasters turns out to be gratitude. And if you thank people, they really appreciate the recognition, recognizing people, sometimes awarding them, and being mutual supportive. All that because we are a community. And it's been fabulous seeing how people will work together to put on good contests, good open houses, good events. I believe the skills you learn in learning how to team with gratitude and supportive will carry over to any community project or corporate project. I know in the corporation we say, okay, we're all paid, so we have to be good teammates, but real successful teams, even in the corporation, are because the leader and people show gratitude for one another and are mutually supportive.
I just have to jump in and make the reference at this point about the word team. Team for me has always meant together everyone achieves more. And I think that's absolutely true. So I completely agree with where you're going with this comment and the opportunity to bring together teams in a Toastmasters setting where you can learn how you actually go through the process of storming, forming, and norming with a team. And if you're not familiar with that particular concept, when you first bring teams together, they generally tend to clash. But over time, they start to recognize the skills that each of them bring, and they start to form together. And after that period, they really begin to work as a team, and that's the norming period. And it's a lot of fun to watch teams go through that storming, forming, and norming process.
So I say it is a lot of fun. That was going to be my next bottom line. So if you want to come to a place where you get a mutual supportive community and team and have fun, they are skills that you will use for a lifetime.
They are. You made another comment that I want to pick up on, and that's the whole act of saying thank you. There are a whole potload of books that, as a leader, I have read. 1001 Ways to Thank Your Team is one of them. And they have a bunch of really marvelous stories about how to thank people. The moral of the story is money certainly is something people will like, but the power of the words thank and you to somebody are far greater and will be far more remembered by a team or by people who you say thank you to than by the money that you hand them. So certainly you can motivate a team with money, but I submit that finding ways to say thank you is an even more powerful technique. A good example is whenever we go to a restaurant, we make a point of learning the person who is serving us, our waitress, waiter, or whatever, find out what their name is, and we thank them even when they just fill our water glass. Thank you, I appreciate it. Because they don't get enough of that. And it's very, very clear, particularly in the restaurants that we go to, or that we frequent, that when we do that, they remember us. And they just work a little bit differently with us versus customers who just ignore them entirely. So the power of thank you is huge. We still have a few more minutes. I'm going to throw one out of my own,
Okay.
if I may. It's eye contact. If you think about when you're talking with somebody, if you're looking them in the eye, that tends to be a connection point. On the other hand, if your head is down and you're looking at your feet or whatever, and you never really look at them in the eye, you're radiating a lack of confidence in yourself. That eye contact is something that can be practiced at any time. But in Zoom settings where you're meeting on Zoom or when you're working with somebody directly, looking them in the eye is a hugely important social skill. That skill is one that you really get the opportunity to work within a Toastmaster setting. And the best part is you get to look at, in my case right now, my lovely wife, but you get to look at a friendly audience. Because you're going to face it, when you're a speaker, there are times when you're going to find yourself dealing with an uncomfortable audience. And being able to maintain that eye contact and pan and scan the room as appropriate for eye contact, that's a huge skill. And that's one that I've learned to practice and take the opportunity to practice every time I get a chance to. I don't know about you, Carol, but when I am talking with somebody now and maintaining eye contact, it definitely makes a difference in the connectivity between people.
That is exactly how you connect with an audience, is to maintain that eye contact. You brought up another point that's important in Toastmasters, and that is it's an environment, it's a sandbox where you can come and practice eye contact, vocal variety, your speech, listening. By practicing, we meet twice a month. Those twice a month, we're practicing these things. Over time, you get better and better and better at it. If eye contact is something you're struggling with, definitely come to us. This is the place to practice things and get feedback.
That practice angle is really important because people tend to be a little bit, either be very expressive with their arms and hands and what have you, or they tend to be very reserved. But learning to actually use gestures and practice using gestures to really make your point, that is a value add for sure. So you make a really good point. There's all manner of these types of things that you can practice, and they become habit. They become part of the way that you present yourself. And you become a far more active speaker or a person who's far more active socially through those techniques. Well, I think we are rapidly approaching the close of our program. I'm going to kind of summarize a little bit of the things that we covered. We talked a little bit about the role of Toastmasters helping people overcome shyness and nervousness, the nervousness that you feel whenever you're in a situation where you are the person that has to take the stage. We talked about the value of learning to actually listen quietly and actually hear what somebody is saying. We talked about teaming in terms of Toastmasters being a great place to begin learning how to build teams and what being a team really means. That's part of the leadership angle that Toastmasters brings to the table. We talked about overcoming the nervousness, the itchy feeling you have, that sweat pouring down your back. We also talked about the importance of eye contact and how that really makes a big difference for how you present yourself. Being able to maintain eye contact and move your eyes around to look at different people in your audience, that's a skill in itself. All of those things are things that you can practice at Confident Communicators. So I think, at this point, do you have any further remarks you'd like to make?
If you want to try these things out and check us out on Confident Communicators. Below this podcast is a link to our club.
Awesome. And I invite everybody who listens to these podcasts, give us a shout. Come and see what we do. Because not only will you get the opportunity to learn skills, but you'll find that you'll find a whole bunch of new friends that you may never have thought would be part of your life. And I'll tell you, we have an awful lot of tremendous members in Toastmasters and in Confident Communicators. So I'm going to close with a thank you. First, to my lovely wife for her participation in this podcast, and most importantly, to the entire team who helps make it possible for us to do these podcasts at Orion Neighborhood TV. This is an absolutely marvelous studio that we have access to, and the people that support us behind the scenes are equally tremendous individuals. So a huge shout out to Orion Neighborhood TV. This is a really excellent organization. And with that, I think we should start playing our music and wrap things up.
I hear it coming.